What's up, guys? It is Will here, back again for the first episode, actually, of a new show called Keeping Up with Collecting. And we have an amazing first guest, the CEO, owner of Alter Ego Comics, who I just confirmed how to pronounce his last name, Marc Bowker. Marc, thanks so much for joining, man. I appreciate it. I know it's right in the middle of a work day for you, so I appreciate it. How you doing, man? Can you give the people a brief introduction of who you are and what you guys do?
Yeah, well, thanks first for having me. Happy to chat with fellow collectors, with fans, to shed a little more light on what Alter Ego is, who we are, and what we offer. Alter Ego Comics was founded actually in 2003 as a home-based business. So I was working full time for my local chamber of commerce, and have been a lifelong action figure collector. You know, I was born in '73. I got a few more miles on me than you do. So I was four when Star Wars came out. Star Wars action figures were among my first action figures, and I went through everything from Tron to Superpowers to G.I. Joe, all kinds of stuff. Star Trek Megos. I had these Mego Batman and Robin figures with magnets in their hands, and I had them on my swing set outside. So I've been a lifelong action figure collector. And in 2003, I was just kind of dissatisfied with options to buy action figures. And comic books for that matter. So started this business out of my house in 2003. Within 2 years, I decided, you know what, I really want to have a brick and mortar store. So I opened up the Alter Ego retail store in downtown Lima, Ohio in 2005. And we rented for the first 4 years. And I was fortunate enough to be able to buy a building in 2009, which is where we are now. And we're in a building that's over 100 years old. It's a 3-story brick building on Main Street in Lima. And in addition to Alter Ego, we've got a great bar called Purple Feet Wine Boutique.
Oh, really? So nice.
you can get comics, hot toys, drink, and get cheesecake, and then see a show. We've got a live event space called Live at the Lab, where we put on concerts and comedy nights and movie nights and all kinds of fun stuff. And there's a recording studio in here too. So we've got,
you guys, collectors can pick up their figures, get some drinks, and record a new album.
So, and lay down some tracks. Yeah, right. Yeah. So it's really, I'm just so thankful that I'm able to do what I love. You know, my first loves are comics and action figures. Well, my family first, but right. I can't forget about them. But then live music. You know, I love live music, so I wanted to add that space too. And just been fortunate to be able to do that thanks to customers like you and the support of our local community since 2003. So next year's our 20th anniversary.
Nice. That's awesome. Congrats on that, man. That's really exciting. 20 years. That's a long time. You know, that's like
a long time.
Two-thirds of my life.
Been a lot of changes in the industry over the last 20 years. And you know, again, just thankful that we're still here. We've been able to pivot and kind of roll with those changes. But I've seen a lot. I've lived through a lot as far as different suppliers, different distributors, different manufacturers, customers. You know, we've had customers pass away. We've had, you know, customers move on into other things. And it's just, it's such a huge part of my life and my family's life. You know, my kids are 23, 21, and 13. And so they've all grown up in the business. In fact, with my youngest, I remember his porta crib was set up in our building now as we were painting. So we affectionately had Kevin's office in the building where he would just hang out in his porta crib while we painted.
Nice. That's crazy. Like, it's crazy, like passing on the torch, so to speak, to different generations of family collectors. That's pretty exciting. So, but yeah, so Marc, thanks so much for joining, the show. Like I said, it's going to be a fun one. Guys, what we're going to do, I got about 10 questions for Marc. Maybe we'll have some other ones that we throw in there, but we're going to just start by having him sort of introduce Alter Ego a little bit more, talk about the products they carry. That's why I'm sharing the screen, just showing the website a bit. And then I also want to ask, Marc was cool with this. We'll go into as much as we can, but ask some questions about the distribution process, how it works, like, you know, working with Sideshow and distributing, you know, what the aftercare experience is like for, you know, comic shops like Alter Ego that carry products, that get products from Sideshow, and maybe even some other stuff that we'll get into. But Marc, I want to start by asking you real quick, can you tell us a little bit about Alter Ego and the products you carry? Because I shared the screen here. I know a lot of collectors who are watching this stream probably or will be watching it, probably collecting hot toys, right? More often than not, 1/6 seems to be like what these streams, the most in-demand product. So is that, one of the biggest things you carry? Is that like one of your main sellers, so to speak, without giving too much info?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I don't mind at all. You know, Hot Toys is the 800-pound gorilla in the 1/6 market. And they have been for so many years, but it wasn't always that way. You know, when we first started back in 2003, we were selling tons of DC Direct and Weta Lord of the Rings statues, and stuff that just has maybe fallen out of favor with collectors over the years, where maybe the manufacturer or the license isn't as popular as it was almost 20 years ago. So yeah, 1/6 scale figures are our bread and butter. And you actually asked, I'm jumping ahead a little bit. You asked me how we choose, what we offer. And, unlike some of the other online retailers that seem to offer everything under the sun, from 3 3/4 inch figures up to, life-size statues, we've kind of established this niche as being the go-to place for 6 scale figures. And that's really because that's what our customers want. We've learned over the years, we offer all kinds of stuff. We offer 1/4 scale figures. We offer Funko Pops. In our retail store, our bread and butter is a $4 comic book, but trying to sell $4 comic books online is a fool's game. So,
Right.
yeah, the long answer to your question, 6 scale figures are really the niche I think that we're filling.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I think online that tends to be the popular thing, because Hot Toys, like I said, they're hot online. They don't have like a brick and mortar store that you can just walk into and buy Hot Toys. So that's where like Sideshow and comic shops like yourself really come into play. But so, and like you said, you were jumping a little bit ahead, Mark, but that's actually good because I like that we're kind of leading into the next question. How do you determine like how many of a figure to carry? This is always something that I've wondered because I know with you guys, like you keep the pre-order open for a certain amount of time. Do you just kind of monitor the pre-orders and say like, okay, like we got 30 pre-orders, like we're going to let it run for another couple weeks and see how many we get and order that exact amount? Is that how it works? How's the process go?
Well, again, that's something that's changed over the last 20 years.
Okay.
So in the before times, we were able to order as many pieces of any item that we wanted to get for the most part.
Mm,
And let me go back and preface this by saying, I don't know how many of your viewers were collecting back in 2003, 4, 5, 6, but it has really exploded over the last probably 10 years. And so if we got 300 orders for the Christopher Reeve, Superman Hot Toys figure, we ordered 300 pieces and that's what we got. Or we ordered, as many as we could get. And then when the suppliers started to go direct to the public, direct to consumer, and that's really, when we're saying 2003, it was really the early days of the internet. When you think about, the internet technically, launched in 1996 ish. And so 2003 was less than 10 years after the internet went live. E-commerce was still in its infancy. And brands like Sideshow and 30 and Mezco and everybody else, they established their brand on the backs of brick and mortar retailers. They got into stores where people could see those products firsthand and they could touch them and they could see every little in and out. And then they grew their customer base so that they could start selling direct to those customers themselves and didn't have to rely on the third party retailer. So we've seen that with so many businesses, and not just to narrow to focus on 6 scale, but Funko is another one that, Funko built their business on the backs of comic book shops for the most part. And now, of course, Funko is the 800-pound gorilla of the vinyl market. And you can walk into Walgreens or CVS or Hot Topic or wherever and pick up an exclusive pop. So I'm kind of meandering to your question here.
good.
Let me go back to where we are now. You know what? Let's go pre-COVID. Pre-COVID,
Okay.
we kind of had a formula. Like, let me go back. We do have like a 30-day window where we collect collect pre-orders, and that's the nature of this business. That's this industry is a pre-order heavy industry because of everything that's involved with production and factories and importing and all that stuff. There's a lead time that years ago used to be 6 to 12 months. Well, as we all know, that could be as high as 3 or 4 years now due to delays and all kinds of things. So where was I going with this? Pre-orders.
no, it's all good. I'm really learning a lot, so it's all good. Keep going.
Well, and that's the thing that's why I agreed to have this conversation, because I think a lot of folks don't understand the retail perspective, and that's fine. Not everybody has to get that. I mean, the end user, you're the end user of the product, but from a supplier standpoint, they look at us as the end user of the product. Like wholesale suppliers, they want to sell as much as they can to the retailer, and then that's it. They don't care what happens to it after that. Whereas, we get it to you and we care about our customers and what happens after that. So back to pre-orders anyway.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
ideally, we have a 30-day window before we have to submit our final numbers to our suppliers. Those numbers cannot be changed. Like when I submit an
Mm.
order, for example, I had to order the Riva first, a third sister figure from Obi-Wan yesterday. So I had to get my orders in yesterday for that. I looked at our pre-order numbers, which were pretty low, and added on a few more. And it's not coming out for a couple of years. But part of this was maybe I can still increase it down the road. I just can't decrease it. Like I cannot
Mm.
change my orders with suppliers once I get those numbers in. And that's why you see a lot of companies charging NRDs, not allowing cancellations. We recently had to go to that NRD model because we were just getting killed with cancellations on figures that we couldn't cancel. So if I ordered, 60 pieces of an item that at the time I had 40 orders for, and then 20 of those customers cancel their orders, now I've got 3 times the product that I need,
Hmm.
the week it comes out. But those are my problems. Those aren't your problems. But that's how we base our orders. It's ideally I used to increase the order by 200%. So if we got 20 orders for something, I was ordering 40. And sometimes we would pre-sell out and sometimes we would still have product. Now I think a lot of customers, end users like yourselves, collectors, let's call them collectors, a lot of collectors are waiting on the pre-order because of the length of time that products are taking to get to them and increasing prices. So what that's going to do is you're going to see what you see with the Riva figure. We've got less than 5 pieces available to sell right now, and I may not be able to get more. So if people stop pre-ordering, retailers are going to stop ordering in sufficient numbers to have supply available when the demand picks up. So it's this snake eating its tail because of the pre-order nature of the business.
Yeah, dude, that is super informative, and that gives us a lot of insight too, Mark, into why like NRDs are important. Because I think as collectors, we're all like, oh, we hate NRDs, especially if you want to cancel or need to cancel for some reason, and you're just not getting NRD back. But it makes sense because then you guys are sitting on stock that you then have to sell, right? And you ordered, like you said, more than you needed for that time. So yeah, and that's that's super interesting. Like I said, just in terms of like 200%, and now it's changing because it had to have been a domino effect because we've all been saying on these streams for like a year or two now, like don't pre-order basically because the problem, because the prices are going down so much. So if you pre-order, people are like, yeah, like I could buy it for a lot cheaper later. But eventually, like you said, that's going to change, I guess, because people are going to, there's going to be less available because people aren't pre-ordering. So like you said, like you're not going to be able to get more Rivas probably because only 5 or whatever people pre-ordered. So,
Well, a
yeah.
lot of it is character based too. Like
Yeah, right.
people, collectors, a lot of collectors have been doing this for so many years. People like yourself, and by the time you get to like, how attached are you to Riva?
Right.
Versus I don't know, a character that's never been done before. The Mantis figure from Guardians of the Galaxy,
Right.
or Drax, things that people have been after Hot Toys for, the 66 Batmobile. I mean, there's all this stuff that's been in the pipeline for 10 years
Mm.
that's never been produced. So I think, collectors ultimately are going to determine what manufacturers do. Collectors are the ones with all the power in this scenario. And the way that you use that power is you choose to buy or not to buy. And, I'm a fan of, buy what you love, regardless of whether it's going to increase in value. Regardless, if it's out of your price range, then, pass on it. But if it's something that you love, for me, I'm a huge Indiana Jones fan. It kills me that there are no one's doing 6 scale Indiana Jones figures. I was out of town last weekend and I was checking the Hasbro Pulse stuff about Indiana Jones. And as soon as that retro Indiana Jones figure went up for, you know, 22.99 or 14.99, whatever it was, I grabbed that thing, even though with shipping, I'm like, I'm paying $25 for this 3 3/4 inch figure, but I had to have it.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that there are Hot Toys fans where, you have to have every Star Wars figure, you have to have, every Darth Vader figure. And my concern is that as the system changes here and people are waiting longer to pre-order, Hot Toys, and they've never published their production runs, they're going to start easing off on the runs. That sounds like a digestive issue, but they're going to ease off on the number of pieces that they make,
Mhm.
and then you're going to see the aftermarket prices on these things skyrocket again. It's very cyclical. I mean, the collector market is very much like the stock market, or anything else. The housing market, it has its ups, it has its downs, and I think we're headed into a down period for a variety of reasons. But eventually, the ship's going to right itself again, and some fans may miss out on a piece that they really want because they were holding off until it actually got released.
Okay, gotcha. And so, Mark, I want to ask you the next question, I think, which carries into what we talked about so far. Does Sideshow set guidelines for the volume of figures you can carry and the amount you can discount them? So I know you talked a little bit about, like, once your order's in, you can't change it. That is what it is, right? Do they set any limits after that, especially in regards to discounts? Because I know they don't want you to kill the market value of the figure, right? So I'm assuming they don't want you to discount it too much. So they set sort of guidelines that you can talk about there?
Well, they do. I mean, every retailer signs an agreement with Sideshow or any other manufacturer. Mezco, for example, doesn't let retailers sell on third-party marketplaces. Like, if you buy direct from Mezco, you cannot sell on eBay or Amazon or Walmart. NECA is the same way. Or maybe it's NECA that I'm thinking of and not Mezco. But there are others.
Yeah.
Lots of retailers have MAP pricing, or minimum advertised pricing. So Sideshow has those same things. Like, you can't discount more than X%. You can only get a certain amount of product from them. And again, that goes back to the changing in e-commerce, that a lot of these distributors and manufacturers, primarily manufacturers, can also sell direct to the public. So they're going to make more selling direct to you than if they sell to me and then I sell to you. So they want to, of course, as a business, be as profitable as possible, which means that's impacted the wholesale agreement over the last 20 years.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. And like you said, they have minimum amounts sort of that you can discount and things like that. Just to, like, make as much money as possible. So, and Mark, to lead into the next one, why should people consider buying from Alter Ego? Because I know we talked a little bit before the stream started about sort of having one retailer that you're comfortable with and one shop that you feel secure in buying from. Like, what do you think is it about Alter Ego that you guys offer that could entice people to buy their 6 scale and other figures from you?
Well, number one is our team. We've got great customer service. You're able to actually call us and talk to someone if you've got a question, if you've got an issue. There are several online retailers where you're not able to contact them by voice, and I know for some people that has been the deciding factor on whether they really want to go with us, is that they actually can talk to people. The other thing is our free double boxing. We've been providing free double boxing for longer than I can remember, because we're collectors and fans too. We know that you want to receive the product in the best possible condition, and that includes, like it or not, the Hot Toys brown shipper box and the art box. When Hot Toys, Sideshow, and even us, ultimately, the boxes are there to protect the items within the boxes. And if the item survives its journey from Ohio to wherever you are, then it's done its job. But we get it, and we go out of our way. I've actually emailed customers. We've gotten stuff in before, and we haven't had a box in stock to fit it. And I'm like, okay, I email everybody that ordered it. Do you want us to ship it now, or do you want to wait 3 days for us to get a box in? And I give them the option. So the free double boxing is, I think, one of the biggest things that puts us head and shoulders above everybody else. Our rewards program is the best in the business. We have no restrictions on rewards. You basically are earning a free Hot Toys figure in rewards every year that you shop with us. So the more you buy, the more you're going to earn. It's 1 point for every dollar you spend. When you get to 250 points, you can cash out for a $5 coupon, or you can let those points accumulate. Like, I just had someone redeem $250 worth of points today.
Nice.
On an order. So our rewards program is, I think it's fantastic. It's something we need to do a better job of communicating and explaining to folks. But yeah, rewards, double boxing, our staff. And, we're a family-owned business. And for some people, that doesn't matter. We were talking before we went live. People want to spend the least amount of money as possible. They're always going to go with the cheapest option. But for us, it does mean something. It's, it allows us to be active within our community. It allows us to give back and do things like free comic book day, or make donations to the food pantry, or run a nonprofit cosplay organization that visits sick kids in the hospital, or participates in the American Cancer Society and the March of Dimes. So we communicate all this stuff through our social channels, through our newsletter. And I'm very transparent about what happens here. I saw one of your viewers, Calvin, actually asked how my wife was doing. My wife was diagnosed with breast cancer last year.
Oh,
She had both of her knees replaced in July. She's gone through a lot, and I share that with my customers because you guys go through stuff too. This isn't just a transactional situation for us at Alter Ego. We get to know our customers; they get to know us. And for some people, that is the reason why they shop with us, because we're transparent, because we're human. We're not just an algorithm. We're not just a robot. We're not just, an email that you're going to get that you're not able to reply to. The bottom line is we care.
yeah. Hey, that's a great answer, Mark. Honestly, that's a really good answer. So, and I'm so sorry to hear about your wife, man. I hope everything, improves in that regard. So absolutely. Paul, thanks so much for the super chat, Paul. Very generous, bro. Thank you so much. Great questions and topics, Will. Thank you for doing something like this. Well, thank you to Mark for agreeing to do it. Like I said, it's informing and enlightening the whole community. So I think it's helpful. So, Mark, I have another question for you too. And this was something that actually one of the viewers asked earlier. I'm sorry, my apologies to the person watching that I forgot here. The aftercare experience. So this is something I think that matters to a lot of collectors, about what if something arrives damaged? What if something arrives broken? What happens then at that point? What does that look like for Alter Ego in terms of working with Sideshow for a replacement? How long does that typically take? How does that process work?
Yeah, a great question, and I appreciate the opportunity to answer it. And again, I think this is an area where we excel. So first thing, if you do receive something from us that is a product distributed or made by Sideshow, contact us. Don't contact Sideshow. They hate that.
Okay.
The first thing that they do is they're like, no, you have to contact whatever retailer you bought it from. So we're always going to want to see pictures. We have to provide that information to Sideshow. So uh, we rely on the manufacturer or the distributor to provide us with those replacements. Like, we don't have an inventory of arms and legs and boxes and blasters and things like that. We have to go back to the supplier on those things. And the first thing they're going to want to see is pictures of the damage. So good pictures of the damage, an explanation of what the issue is, and then we basically work for you, work on your behalf with. We'll continue using Sideshow as the example. So our customer service will reach out to them, to their wholesale department, with pictures, with explanations. We have to fill out a form,
Hmm.
and that process, that to get a reply, we tell people it could be up to 5 to 7 days before we get a reply on the damage. So we just ask for patience when it comes to that. And 9 times out of 10, we're able to resolve things without any issues at all. Either Sideshow will ship a replacement piece or a full replacement directly to you. In some cases, if it's a small component, or if we've got several requests out, they'll ship us a box with all of the pieces, and then we have to dole those out. But ultimately, we want you to be happy. But we also need our customers to be reasonable.
Gotcha. Okay.
I know that everybody has a different definition of damage, but there are some things that we can all universally agree upon if something is damaged. So we will always go to bat for our customers, but we're not always the ultimate, decider in that process. If Sideshow doesn't want to replace it, there isn't a whole lot that we can do. But I will tell you, in the 20 years I've been doing this, those instances have been few and far between. We've been able to resolve, nearly every issue that we've had, primarily with Sideshow. Some of the other suppliers actually take longer to get back and to rectify things. But actually, Sideshow does a really good job with handling those. It's just the response time sometimes can take a little longer than some people would like. But I just want our customers and all our potential customers to know is that we will go to bat for you on reasonable requests to get things taken care of.
Gotcha. And I know it can really vary, Mark, depending upon the damage and the item and whatever, but is there sort of like a general time frame? Is it maybe a couple weeks, something like that, for a replacement to arrive to the collector?
I would say it's probably about a 3-week process.
Gotcha.
Let's say 3 to 4 weeks. Now, the important thing here is that collectors find out if there is damage within usually 30 days, no more than 60 days.
Okay.
We've heard from folks. I know a lot of folks, they stockpile boxes. They order a bunch of stuff and they don't have time to open them until, 6 months later. That's not gonna end well
Right.
because there is a time limit that most manufacturers and distributors give us to get replacements. So you need to open your products when you receive them, thoroughly inspect them. Even if you don't display them, I mean, at least look at the boxes and see if there's any issue that you think, like if there's a hole punched in the box. Some other larger items, those are moved around with forklifts, for example, the Batman Begins Batmobile. We got some of those that had puncture marks, in from
Wow.
the,
From
the
the
things on the
forklifts?
forklifts that,
Jeez.
that go in there. Yeah. So it's important to check things as soon as you get them and then report the
Okay.
damage to us. And then it's the ball's in our hands. We pass it off to Sideshow, and
Okay.
3 to 4 weeks is usually what we're looking at, but we will do everything
Gotcha.
in our power to make it right for you.
Okay. And you said sometimes Sideshow will even ship the part directly to the customer instead of shipping it to you and then to the customer. Is that right?
That does happen, and again, it's usually if it's a full replacement or a full body replacement. A lot of times,
Okay.
I don't know how many people have dealt with issues to Hot Toys figures, but a lot of times there are people that are trying to game the system, and so
Mm.
Sideshow, wants you to destroy a piece, like really smash it with a hammer, and then
Yeah, I've seen that.
they want photographic evidence that it's been destroyed. And I get it, because we all know that you can sell pieces of Hot Toys figures on the aftermarket and make money that way. So I don't blame them for their due diligence and their thoroughness. In my experience, they've been a great partner as far as providing replacements and helping us out with that process.
Yeah, yeah, and it always breaks my heart a little bit. I've had a few times where I had to destroy something because I got a replacement, and I'm like, man, I hate to destroy it though. It feels like as a collector, I don't want to destroy something like that. But yeah, I understand why they do it. So, yeah. So, Mark, I want to ask you too, and sorry for the theme of Sideshow here, but I think that's one of the ones that people, since it's mostly 1/6 collectors, they're probably going to be watching this stream. Sideshow is something they know, and considering Hot Toys is mostly what they collect, it's a pretty common retailer that people are familiar with. But I got another question for you, Mark. So, are there any updates provided to you guys when your stock of figures are coming from Sideshow? Because I know when I've bought from you guys, like you'll send me an update, like, okay, maybe it'd be a couple weeks from now, the Yoda's going to ship or Iron Patriot's going to ship or whatever. Nowadays, since collectors are getting like earlier figures from Sideshow is getting them a lot earlier than they were previously. So for whatever reason, so can collectors expect them earlier too from Alter Ego because of that, since you guys are getting them from Sideshow? And do you guys provide updates? How does that process go?
So I guess to answer your first question there,
Hmm.
any updates provided? So the only update that we get what I refer to as a heads up email from Sideshow, usually anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks. Basically, once Sideshow Wholesale gets a shipping notification that something's on the water coming over from Hong Kong, then we get a heads up email. Hey, this is coming in. We're going to charge you for your shipment, on such and such a date. What we've decided to do is we reformat that email and we pass it on to all the customers that ordered that item. And we say, okay, we just got a heads up. We're giving you a heads up that product A is scheduled to arrive in 2 to 3 weeks. If you want to change your payment method, if you prefer a PayPal invoice versus a QuickBooks invoice, let us know. But it is coming. Because everybody starts seeing the blogger photos and everyone gets antsy, like, oh, it's when's it coming, when's it coming?
Right,
Or
right.
pictures show up in Hong Kong, and there's a lot of variability in how long it takes for something to get from point A to point B, um, especially during the pandemic. But there are still supply chain issues that are impacting every industry. So it used to be about 3 to 5 weeks, and in some cases it's gone a lot higher. In some cases it's gotten faster. So that's really the only communication. So that's a little frustrating for us because a lot of
Mm.
times you find out before we do that an item's been pushed back. So then we
Mm.
have to go do our research on the wholesale side of Sideshow, or check out a product and be like, oh, this product that was supposed to ship first quarter of 2023 is now shipping, fourth quarter of 2022 or fourth quarter of 2023. So we get that heads up email. As far as when customers get products from us versus Sideshow or other suppliers, there is no real formula for that. There have been some cases where retailers get figures before customers that order direct from Sideshow. And there have been lots of cases where customers that order direct from Sideshow get their stuff before retailers. The other thing to keep in mind is that it depends on where you are in the country. We're in Ohio, Sideshow's in California. So we've got at least 5 days between product landing at Sideshow HQ and it showing up at Alter Ego HQ. And then if we have customers in California, it's another 4 to 5 days back to you. So, the bottom line, there have been very, very rare situations where we've not been able to fill a customer order for one reason or another. Either our internal inventory system was off. Again, I can count on one hand over the last 20 years the number of times this has happened.
Right.
But the bottom line is patience. It will get there. A lot of times there are split shipments. Like Sideshow will only get half of their inventory from Hot Toys. And then maybe you're waiting another 2 to 3 months, depending on how soon you ordered. And that goes back to pre-ordering as soon as possible. We all hate the game, but we kind of have to play it if we want to get our stuff in that first shipment. I've got that situation with some of our suppliers where I have to order things blind. Like I don't see pictures of the product, but if I want to be in that first wave, I have to order without seeing the pictures.
Right.
So it affects all of us differently. So there are split shipments. Those are rare also, but usually, it's around the same time. That was a long meandering trip.
No, it's like I said, this is much information
through country roads to get to your answer there, Will.
No, honestly, I love it, Mark, because like I said, as much info as we can get is helpful to me because like I said, this teaches us so much about distribution, how the shipment process works. And I think that just informs collectors on what to do, especially in a time where like we were talking about maybe before the stream or early on, like when the game is changing a lot. Like you said, the collecting game, even since COVID, has changed quite a bit. It's boomed, but at the same time, the oversaturation of the market has caused people to maybe dial back their pre-orders, but now you're seeing a market reaction, right? Like you're seeing maybe less production, you're seeing like, Sideshow getting things quicker, you guys getting things quicker. So yeah, it's, everyone's trying to entice pre-orders in one way or another just because of the fact that, it's changing and there's going to be a reaction to such a fundamental philosophy change from so many collectors. So, it's, it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. But, I wanted to ask you, Mark, too, because I know with Sideshow, like you guys at one point were charging, we're having free shipping and no sales tax for sales outside of Ohio, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, right. So, and now you guys are charging NRDs. I know you talked about the NRD thing a little bit, why you guys had to do that, just because of the canceled pre-orders and you're eating so much stock because of that. But does Sideshow have, or any of your, retailers that you work with, do they have any sort of mandates in place about charging tax, shipping, NRDs, things like that? Or is that something that each retailer kind of has their own autonomy to do?
Really, it's each retailer is able to do that. However, as you mentioned, well, you didn't. We mentioned before we went live, but we were kind of flagged for offering free shipping. And basically, what was looked at, or the way Sideshow looked at it, is that we were violating the terms of service because offering free shipping turned out in most cases to be greater than the discount we were allowed to offer on the figures. So I get it. As far as, I'm going to take these in order here. NRDs, those are completely up to the retailer. However, some manufacturers charge the retailer an NRD. So a lot of times that'll get passed through to the end user, especially on a lot of the higher end pieces, the stuff from Prime One, stuff from, I'm trying to think of who else is doing that. Pure Arts is doing that. There are other companies that are charging retailers an NRD for the same reason that we charge collectors NRDs, because if a retailer goes out of business, if a retailer, for one reason or another, if their credit card doesn't go through or they don't receive the product that they ordered, but no manufacturer or distributor requires retailer to charge their customers NRDs. Tax is the wild, wild west. It's and it varies from state to state. It is such a headache for retailers, especially small businesses. And that's why you're not seeing it, any real national legislation when it comes to that. Every state has a different requirement for retailers to charge sales tax. It used to be if you had a physical presence in a state, then you were required to charge sales tax in that state. So for us, it was only Ohio. We have one location in Ohio, so we were only required to charge sales tax. I should say we are only required to charge sales tax if we ship an item to a customer in Ohio.
Mm.
Now, every state has different thresholds for e-commerce providers. How many orders do you get from a state? What's the total order value? What's the volume that you're doing in a certain state? Those are the two big ones. And then it comes down to working with your accountant to figure out, okay, are we doing X amount of business in said state where we need to pay them sales tax? And for most small businesses, I mean, we're a family-owned business. We have a staff of 6. We're not doing millions of dollars in say, we're not Walmart, we're not Amazon, we're not Target, we're not even Big Bad Toy Store or some of the other folks. So we don't have to pay sales tax right now. My accountant tells me we don't have to pay sales tax anywhere outside of Ohio. Now we evaluate that every year because that could change, but the government's also evaluating it every year. They're moving the goalposts. Everyone, whenever an election's coming up, whenever the lobbyists for whomever says you need to start charging sales tax. So yeah, there are a lot of variables involved with that, and nobody knows what's going on financially in my business except my accountant and me. Mm-hmm. So for a manufacturer or supplier to say you need to be charging sales tax, they don't know what volume we're doing. But I'm going to follow the law, and when we're required to charge sales tax in different states, which we probably will be at some point down the road, then we'll do it. Now the follow-up that everybody asks is, will that be retroactive? In a perfect world, no. I mean, our industry is so crazy, ordering 2 to 3 years in advance. If you're placing an order in good faith from me today and I'm not charging sales tax, and then I come back a year from now and say, oh, by the way, I need to charge you sales tax on this order. Right. For me, that doesn't work. And I will fight to my last breath to avoid having to do that. But at the end of the day, the government makes the laws, the government makes the rules, and you have to be in compliance. Right now, we are in compliance, and hopefully things don't change too dramatically in the years ahead.
Yeah. And that's interesting to me because I do understand where you're coming from. And I do feel like just it's inevitability at some point that all internet e-commerce transactions will all have sales tax of some form. Like that's probably going to be something that we see eventually, right? There's always going to be extra money to be had for whatever government it would go to, local, state, whatever. Like they're not going to miss out on that, I feel like. So I think eventually, like you said, that is going to be something, and it's just probably a matter of time. So I guess we'll see. And it's changed even over the years. But I wanted to ask you too, Mark, because I've noticed something, since I've been, purchasing from you guys for a while now, a little more discounts recently. So do you guys run discounts for various holidays like Black Friday? I know you're a smaller business, so you're not like Amazon or Walmart that are running like these massive sales. But do you guys do things like that? I know one thing you do is when it's your birthday. I really like that. You get like a rewards set up when it's your birthday in the system. And usually it ends up resulting in like a $25 code or something like that. So it's pretty nice. So, but what about, sales coming up for Black Friday and then the Christmas holiday and things like that? Do you guys do, sales for that type of stuff?
Well, again, a lot of that goes back to the limitations that are placed on us by manufacturers and distributors. We can't discount more than a certain amount on Sideshow and Hot Toys products. We just can't.
Gotcha.
Or we could lose the ability to sell those products. Having said that, I've seen Sideshow offering discounts on stuff that's brand new. Mm-hmm. So as people have pointed out in the comments, we're in a different world right now. Second half of 2022 than we were 2 years ago, 10 years ago. There's a lot of inventory sitting around out there, and nobody wants to be sitting on inventory, unfortunately. So, I mean, I think it's a great time. It's a buyer's market right now. As I mentioned earlier, is it going to stay that way, for the next 6 to 12 to 18 months? I don't know. My gut tells me that we're going to see the industry right itself within the next 12 to 24 months. But for right now, it's a buyer's market. So, if we don't have limitations, if there's a supplier that doesn't put limitations on us, or if it's a product that we've had sitting around for 6 to 12 months, I don't want it here. I got to
Right.
make room for new stuff that's coming in every week. So there is a chance that there may be some sales coming up for us for Black Friday. Um, as a rule of thumb, though, we prefer to offer rewards to our existing customers. You mentioned the
Mm,
birthday coupon. We actually had to revamp that program because we had people that were signing that you automatically got that on your birthday, regardless if you were buying stuff from us or not. All you had to do is sign up for our email list, and
right.
you would get a $25 coupon on your birthday. I kid you not. I had people sign up and wait 4 to 5 years to collect $100 or $125 in coupons, and that's their only order. That's the only order that a customer would place. So I finally got wise and had to revise that program so
Mm,
that you have to be an active purchasing customer to get the birthday coupon.
okay.
And it makes me sad that people would kind of game the system that way, but it goes back to people that buy only on price, and there's nothing wrong with that, man. I'm not criticizing people that do that. That's just not me. And as a retailer, I want to build a relationship with you, and I think customers want to build relationships with retailers that they can relate to, with not nameless, faceless retailers. So like I said, with our rewards program, you have the ability for repeat customers to earn essentially $250 in coupons during a calendar year. Some people will redeem those all at once on one figure. Some people will redeem $25 on 10 different orders, which relates to free shipping or accounts for free shipping. So it's whatever people want to do with those rewards. As a small retailer with those limitations, we don't frequently run sales. We prefer to do rewards.
Gotcha. Totally makes sense considering the constraints of your, contractual obligations with Sideshow. Absolutely. So Mark, I wanted to ask you too, with delays, this is something that, like you mentioned before, affects a lot of Hot Toys collectors, really all collectors, because nowadays pretty much seems like everything gets delayed at least a couple months now. Like everything's backlog, everything's delayed. How do you guys communicate delays with customers who pre-order from you guys? I know I've gotten emails from you before. Do you guys still use that approach, or how does it work?
Again, unfortunately, the delays are not communicated to us from the top down. So a
Mm,
lot of times the only way we hear about a delay is when a customer asks and says, "Oh, I heard that this got pushed back," or it's June. This item was supposed to ship in June. It's now September. Can you check into this? And then we check into it. We used to check every active item on the site with each supplier, and that just was very time consuming and not very productive because a lot of times there there was no updated information. So we really don't communicate delays. We just communicate those heads up emails like, hey,
mm.
this item's on the water, it's going to get to us in 3 to 5 weeks. It's almost here. Patience, Padawan, it will get here.
Gotcha. Yeah, yeah, I totally understand. And one of the comments I know Josh had pointed out that you guys do, Mark, that he likes, and I think other people like, is when you show the stock level as a number, not just as low or sold out. So with those stock numbers, the transparency, I think people really like. Is that something that you guys like really did purposefully instead of just saying low stock, just to be transparent?
Oh, absolutely. Because as
Yeah.
a consumer myself, if I go to a site and I see they have one left, I'm more likely to buy it then
Right.
than to sit back and go, hey, I'm gonna wait, 2 more weeks or 4 more weeks or whatever. We want our customers to know, like, no joke, we're low. Like we only have 5 pieces, 4 pieces, 3 pieces. And we've seen that as those numbers have gone down, we've seen more people actively, getting their orders in. A lot of times it can be on a pre-order where now I do want to go back and clarify one thing
Yeah.
about those numbers on pre-orders, because sometimes we are able to order more before
Mm,
an item comes out, and it's usually only if we increase it like right after we place the order. Like 6 months
okay.
from now, we're usually not able to do that because basically also all the suppliers, all the manufacturers and distributors, they have two separate pots. They have a pot of product for wholesale, and they have a pot of product for collectors, for consumers that are ordering direct from them. And as long as we're not ordering more than we're allowed to, we can place orders until that pot is empty. Sometimes that pod will be empty the day after we get our initial order in. Sometimes it can be several months and there's still product available. So that's why sometimes on our site we'll sell out of something, sell out of a pre-order, and then we'll have more product become available because we were able to secure some more. That doesn't happen very often, but it does happen.
Gotcha. Okay. And Bob Dylan, thanks so much, Bob Dylan, for the super chat. He asked a question for you, Mark. What Hot Toys figures have you pre-ordered the most or least for 2023? Thanks for coming on to answer the question. Yeah, that's a good question I should have thought of, Bob Dylan. So thanks for that. Mark, can you answer that one? Maybe what's been most popular and least popular?
That's an excellent question, Bob Dylan. Love your music.
Maybe DX Vader would be my guess. Is that one?
Yeah,
Like
I think you're right, Will. It is the DX Vader, and that one that one is going to be one of those where people are going to kick themselves for not
yeah.
ordering it when they could. I can tell you now because we actually ordered under our threshold, under our max, and we can't get any more at this point. So rather than going for the max level, I mean, let's face it, consumers are being a little choosier when it comes to buying. Retailers are also being choosier too. Like we're not taking the risks that maybe we would have taken pre-COVID or 5 years ago. So yeah, what we've got is what we've got on the Vader, and then it's gone, and that's not going to show up until the end of what is that, 2024?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. 2024. Yeah. Q1 24, maybe. Yeah. So yeah, and what about least, Mark? I know you said Riva, there was only like maybe like 5, something like that. Have there been other figures like that that you've received low pre-order numbers on?
the reigning champion of low ordered Hot Toys figures is any Eternals figure.
I knew it. I knew it. I knew that was going to be the one. So Athena and Gilgamesh were probably really low, right?
Yeah, yeah, and I get it. There's yeah, it's just some people may love that movie, and that goes back
I
to
didn't like it, but
buying. No, you know what? I tolerated it. It was all right. It was so slow. I actually fell. I watched it at home. I didn't go see it in the theater. I'm
oh,
not.
okay, gotcha,
I
gotcha.
own a comic shop and have been reading comics since I was 10 years old, and like I can't name more than before the movie. I was hard pressed to name any member of the Eternals. So
Damn.
anyway, yes. Buying what you love. If you loved Eternals, if you love Angelina Jolie, if you love that character, then great. Buy it right away because it wouldn't surprise me. There have been some things solicited then have not been produced. That does happen sometimes. Where if not enough orders come in, something won't get produced. I can't think of too many Hot Toys figures, but there've definitely been like premium format figures and other things where, my gut tells me that there just were not enough orders to justify production, and they just pulled the plug on it.
Gotcha. Okay, interesting. Well, thanks for the amazing question, Bob Dylan. We have actually one more question for Mark, and if anyone in the chat wants to ask another question, let me know. We'll ask him while we have another like 15 minutes. So, Mark, the last question I have for you that I formulated: how does Alter Ego determine which products to carry? You guys seem to carry pretty much every hot toy, from my recollection, just because it's it's a popular seller, like you said. But what about like 3-0, Prime 1, things like that? How do you guys determine sort of which products you're going to sell at Alter Ego?
So, it goes back to, I can't remember whether we talked about this on air or off air, but
Yeah.
kind of what our customers are asking for. We're very agile, let me say, because we're a small business. We can add things to the site relatively quickly. We don't have any hard and fast rules like we're never going to offer product X, or we're going to offer this. So most of it is 6 scale, but there's also that experience. Like we've offered a lot of things over the years that no one has ordered. Like if no one consistently orders Prime 1 statues from us, then why would we continue to offer them?
Right.
And we're always happy to make that exception. So our wheelhouse is kind of 6 scale. We will offer pretty much any 6 scale figure from, I should say, licensed 6 scale figure. That's a whole other conversation because we actually experimented with the non-licensed stuff. I don't know if you were buying from us, Will, back when we did that, but
No.
and that
I'm guessing Sideshow didn't like that.
you know what? Let me take just like 3 minutes to riff on this, just so people understand. Because I'm a member of a lot of Facebook 6 scale groups. I'm a collector, I'm a fan myself, and I see people buying unlicensed stuff. And I kind of shake my head because
Mm,
number one, for you as the collector, it is so risky. It is so risky that you're even number one going to get the product, and God forbid that thing show up damaged, because you are not going to get any help with that, more than likely. They're just not made in the volume that Hot Toys or 3.0 or licensed figures are. So someone may love a sculpt by Sculptor X working out of their garage, but it's so risky. From the retail standpoint, it could violate our agreements with Marvel, or we have an agreement with Marvel Comics to sell their product, with DC Comics to sell their product. We don't want to run the risk. We've actually gotten cease and desist orders on certain things when we were offering unlicensed products.
wow.
So, that's just an area that I think is, a lot of people think that it is a good thing for the industry, that it kind of challenges the big players, but I just think it's bad all around.
Mm,
It's so, if you're making a one-off for you and a couple of your friends, that's fine. But, folks that are kind of mass producing these unlicensed items, it's just bad for everybody. But anyway, that's just my two
no, yeah.
cents. And from the retail perspective,
Yeah.
the only thing, and I will add, not everybody has, not every supplier or manufacturer has the same discount structure for retailers.
Mm,
So there are things where it just doesn't make financial sense for us to carry them. If the discount isn't above a certain percent, then there is little to no way for us to make money on it. And at the end of the day, as much as we are fans and collectors, we still have to keep the lights on. We still have staff to pay. We still have to put food on the table for our families. And if the margin is so small, it just doesn't make sense. That is one reason why we don't offer XM Studios pieces, is
mm,
that there is virtually no way for us to make a profit on them. When you factor in shipping from California to us, I know a lot of stores. We actually just had this discussion in a retailer group on Facebook this week. Stores that carry some of those 1/10 scale XM statues, and they have to mark them up substantially. And then some customers are calling them out for marking up the product. Well, they have to price them at a point that makes sense for them, because the manufacturer is not giving us a good enough discount on them.
mm. Gotcha, gotcha. Okay, so there's a lot of factors like demand, what the discount is from the distributor, things like that. Yeah, yeah. Man, running a business is hard. I don't know how you guys do it. Those collectors, all we gotta do is sit back and like look for the best price and buy from the most reputable place. But yeah, I don't. Yeah, it's complicated.
You have to love it, man. I mean, I
Yeah.
wouldn't be doing this. There has not been a day in nearly 20 years that I haven't wanted to come to work. And I
Okay.
think back to some of the jobs I had where I was calling off, or I don't feel like it today, or I've got issues with, my boss, or with, whatever. And yeah, there are issues every day. There are things that come up, but it's also exciting that there are new products that show up on our doorstep. There are people that walk in with comic collections they want to sell. There's new product announcements that get me fired up as a fan. So if you don't love this industry, none of us, let me be perfectly clear, none of us are getting rich off this industry. We're doing it because we love it. And thankfully, it's been able to provide a good enough living for my family and me. But there is nobody that's like getting wealthy selling Hot Toys figures as a retailer.
No, no, not at all. Yeah, I didn't suspect as much. But Shiny had a good question for us, Mark. I don't know if you can speak to this, but he's been saying there's a lot of debate as to why some Sideshow orders have suddenly started to go to wait lists. So, like some of the figures that are Hot Toys on pre-order at Sideshow, they don't come out till Q2, Q3 of next year, and they're already waitlisted. So he was saying he doesn't own the business, but he doesn't understand the benefit, because I guess people are arguing that, oh, then they'll just go buy it from somewhere else, right? Alter Ego, you guys are a little bit different because you can order a limited amount within a certain time frame, and then you have to mostly, like you said, stick to that amount within reason. So I don't know if you can speculate a little bit. Is there any reason, like you said, maybe is it to limit the production number so they're not sitting on so much dead stock? Would that be your guess?
Yeah, I think this goes back to, this is a perfect example of what I was talking about earlier, by the snake eating its tail. They are pivoting. They are pivoting hard because they're sitting on so much inventory. And again, this is just my guess. Clearly,
Yeah,
I don't work for Sideshow and I don't have any insider information,
right.
but I think they're doing the same thing that we are doing. and not being as aggressive in purchase orders. And that may also be coming from the top down from Hot Toys, where they're not producing as many pieces as they were during, pre-COVID times. So it's one of those situations where I think the industry we're going to go through a little bit of a down cycle where things are going to sell out faster. Things are going to increase on the secondary market. People aren't going to be able to get what they want. And I remember those days, man. We used to pre-sell out of everything. We would be pre-sold out like 3 to 4 months before an item would get released. And now we're pre-selling out of very little. So to me, that means cut your orders. And I think that's what's happening with Sideshow, and that's what's going to happen with Hot Toys. So the bottom line for me, again, is if it's something you want and you can afford it, buy it as soon as you can. Put the pre-order in as soon as you can. If it's maybe if it's available, maybe if it's 20% off, maybe this, that, or the other thing, then you're going to wait on it and you're probably going to miss it. And if you're okay with that, that's cool. But getting those pre-orders, that's going back to whether we like it or not. This entire industry is built on pre-orders, and it's unlike any other retail industry. When I talk to other retailers about what I do and how long in advance I have to order and that we're getting product, the record I think is 4 years for us between placing an order and actually receiving the product. Like everybody just goes, it's the same thing you said, like, oh my God, why would I do what you do? Why would I go into that? Why would I go into that industry?
Hell no.
So, but the reality is that this industry is built on pre-orders, and if the pre-orders dry up, then the product's going to dry up too.
Yeah, right. And that's like you said, maybe because in the community, you've seen in the groups, like that's where things become grails. Maybe the figures that were slept on a little bit and then they didn't make a lot of them. And then people are like, oh yeah, I wanted a Yondu. I wanted a Hela. Those are the ones. And then they turn into those grail figures. And like you said, maybe that DX Vader becomes one. Maybe it's a shift of something. The reason I keep bringing up Loki, Mark, is because Loki's my favorite character. And I've been waiting on this figure for like 3 years. It's been like, Endgame came out, what, 2019? I mean, it's so this one I hope you guys get this
4 times. I don't even remember.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, I hope you guys get this one soon because like I said, I need to pick up this one soon. And Josh wanted to know if you guys were all driving Lambos, but yeah, I'm assuming so considering it's the collecting community. So yeah.
Yeah, and the collecting community is fantastic. Let me go back a step and just thank the collectors that have supported us for the last 19 years, especially during COVID. There was a period, because we operate a brick and mortar store, we were shut down for 2 months. And I know that there were stores in California and New York and other parts of the country that were shut down longer than that. But like, we could not be open to the public for 2 solid months. We did not receive any new product comic wise. And those of you that read comics, that's a weekly thing. You go to the comic shop every week, you get the new comics. We had no new comics for 2 months. We had no new Hot Toys for 6 months, 8 months. It was a long time, man. Wow. But we had customers that were financially supporting us. We had kind of like a make a donation to Alter Ego. We had people that were doing that. We had a lot of people reaching out and just wishing us the best, and they were thankful that we had people jump onto our live sales. We do Facebook live sales, but we don't do Hot Toys on Facebook. Sorry. We do comics and Funko Pops and things like that. And we had some of our online customers from outside of Ohio hop on and buy some graphic novels or buy, some Funko Pops to kind of get us through that. So we would not be here. I'm thankful every day. And I say this all the time. We would not be here without you, without the collector community. There's the collector community is like any family. There's going to be fighting. There's going to be disagreements. There are going to be things that not everybody agrees on. But at the end of the day, I think collectors take care of their own and are very kind and giving people.
Yeah, we are. I think it's a great community. Like I said, I've met so many great people, got to experience great things. Of course, all these great products that are being made. I still think it's the golden age of collecting because of the amount of options that we have. Yes, we're getting, the market's a little unstable right now, but at the same time, the amount of great products that are being produced, yeah, man, it's an exciting time still nonetheless. But Mark, thanks so much for joining, man. I really appreciate it. I know everyone who's watching now or will be watching this later, we really appreciate like how transparent you were and you answered all these questions so thoroughly. Like I said, so even if you feel like you're meandering, you're not to us because you're still teaching us a bunch of stuff. So I appreciate it, man. Is there anything else you want to say, before we go?
Well, first, thank you again, Will, for having me on. I sincerely appreciate it. I would be happy to come back anytime.
Perfect.
And for anyone that is not currently shopping with us, give us a shot. AlterEgoComics.com. Sign up for that VIP program. Sign up for that email newsletter. Follow us on social. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. We try to be that engaging, relatable company. We don't carry everything. As we talked about earlier, we kind of focus on the 6 scale stuff, but we're always open to adding things that you might be interested in. So as long as it makes financial sense for us, we're happy to give it a shot. For those of you that are customers, whether you've bought one thing or whether you're a longtime customer, thank you. I appreciate you. My family appreciates you. My team appreciates you. As I said, we wouldn't be doing this without you. And let's just let's kind of bask in what Will said about this golden age of collecting. There's stuff being made that I never thought would get made. It's a good time to be a collector. I know there's some things that people aren't happy about, but the ship will right itself, and we're in for, probably a lot more cool stuff in the future.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And like I said, we got some great options, and appreciate you, Mark, for sharing all the insights and all that. So guys, check out Alter Ego. Great place. I've bought from there a bunch. So highly recommended. But thanks to Mark, thanks to everyone who joined today. Like I said, if you guys watch later and you drop some comments, maybe Mark maybe if you're willing to check the comments, people might ask some questions there. If you're willing, I can send them over to you or something. But I'm sure people will have more questions for you if you're willing to answer them. But yeah, man, would love to have you back sometime. So let me know when you're free, and we'll work something out. Love to have you back. So, but guys, again, thanks so much. That's going to be the end of episode 1. I think it's keeping up with collecting. We're going to interview some people like Mark who, are great names in the industry and know a lot and can share some insights and help us all improve our own collecting and our collecting habits. So that's it for now, guys. Peace out. Let's roll the outro. Bye.